If you're anything like me, when you take on a project, at the end of the project, you end up with tools strewn about, parts everywhere. So really the next project before you can take on anything else is to reorganize your tools from the previous project. Also, if you're anything like me, you end up digging around, searching for tools instead of actually getting anything done. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I permanently fix this for myself. How much nicer is this? For this demonstration, I'm going to explain my setup for my sawmill, although this will apply no matter if you're a plumber, electrician, office worker, stay-at-home mom. The principles are the same, and I think you're going to find a lot of value from this. This is how my setup looks today, which looks much nicer. It didn't always look like this. In the past, if I was going to the sawmill, what I would do is run around the shop, grab every tool I thought I needed, try to remember, oh, I might need this or that, throw them in the back of the side-by-side, come up here, only to get up here and realize like, oh, I don't have my torque wrench, I don't have my glasses. And if you operate like that, you know you just end up going back and forth, wasting time looking for tools, or worse yet, I would just give up. I'll give you an example of when it really bit me. This is the dry belt on this sawmill, and over time this thing will stretch and get loosened, so every once in a while I have to tighten this thing up. That just requires a couple sockets on the front and the back to do so, but I usually don't bring those tools with me because I rarely have to do that. Well, this one day I felt it was super loose, and I was like, man, I've already ran back and forth 2 or 3 times, I'm done, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I closed it up, went for it, started the machine, started running. What happened, that belt was so loose that it twisted, destroyed the belt. Luckily didn't throw the blade off, but it could have very easily. And at that point I was like, I've had enough, I'm sick of this, I need systems, so I'm gonna fix this problem. I think I finally created a permanent solution to the problem because I'd tried to be organized in the past and it would just end up back the same. But what I did was create a simple 3-part system that still works today. So how does that work? The biggest problem that I always faced was not having the right tools for the job. So what I did was pretty simple. I went around the sawmill and I made a list of every nut and bolt, every fastener, anything that I would need a tool for, and the size. And then I made sure I had a wrench, or a socket, or pliers, cutters, anything that I would ever need for the sawmill is in this toolbox. And as I'm working, if I come across something that I don't have, I add it to the toolbox. And here's the unique thing. These tools are only for the sawmill. I made a rule where none of these can ever be used for anything but the sawmill. As you know, when you have a toolkit, it always gets ransacked for a new project. So I actually went out and got specific tools just for the sawmill. You wanna work on the car, you wanna fix something in the house, you don't get to use these tools. That's my rule. On top of that, I've got earplugs, I've got a funnel, gloves, torque wrench, all of it is in here. Every tool that I could ever need is in this tote. On top of that, I've got the other things that I use. This is the gas that I use it, and this brings up another point. What I've done is I have the same type of can for the chainsaw and for the sawmill. Of course, the chainsaw, you mix the gas and oil. So I've written that all over the place. And for the sawmill, which just uses straight gas, I've spray painted it yellow. I use a yellow lid to differentiate. That way I can quickly see it and go, oh, this is for the sawmill, this is for the chainsaw, because I never want to mix the two up. I've done the exact same thing for the chainsaw. Let me show you that. Anytime I'm going to use the chainsaw, whether that's here or somewhere else, I have this tote. I've got a hard hat in here. I've got my chaps. I've got basically a first aid kit, just a bunch of gauze and stuff, so if I ever did cut myself, I could just shove that in there and try to get to safety. Got some gloves. Got my wedges. A framing hammer, but it works good. It's kind of a hatchet, and you can pound wedges with it. This vise will help with sharpening. Got a tape measure. Always need a tape measure. And then in here, I've got all my files. Got another tape measure. And then the tools required to work on the chainsaw. Everything that I could need, including some matches in case I want to burn something. And I use these to cut barbed wire fences or pull metal out of things. So no matter what, if I'm going to run the chainsaw, I know if I just grab this tote, I've got everything I need. Again, this is simply for the chainsaw, nothing else. That was basically part 1 and 2 of my operation, which is to have the right tools for the job and for those tools to have a home. Because if they don't have a home, they're gonna end up in a catch-all spot. They'll be in a pile somewhere in your shop, you won't be able to use them. So sawmill stuff is in this tote, that's its home. And also in the shop, this also has a home. Same with the chainsaw stuff. Also, as you can see on the back, I've created a home for everything that I have, so I can quickly strap it up here and go. I've got an extra sawmill blade, got my axe, got a cant hook, rope, another tape measure, gotta have tape measures, because if all these were thrown in here, ropes get tangled up, the sawmill blade's super sharp, I don't really want it in here. Everything just gets tangled together, so everything needs a home, which is what I've got here. I'll give you another example that has nothing to do with the chainsaw sawmill, because maybe you can't relate to that. My wife and I used to travel a lot before we had kids, and if you've ever traveled a lot, you know that the hardest part about travel is just packing all your stuff. You gotta bring toothbrushes and deodorant and this and that and the other thing. And there's times when it's so annoying that it's just like, let's just stay home. But we had actually lived out of our car while we traveled to Southwest for about a month, and we learned a lot of things about packing and traveling light. So what we ended up doing is my wife sat down, made a list of all the things that we need when we go on a trip or when we spend the night somewhere, and she made a little kit with all the toiletries, all the bath stuff. And she had another kit with phone chargers, things like that. So we always had toothbrushes, little towels, deodorant, stuff like that. It was always packed and it was sitting in a suitcase. So all we'd have to do is grab the suitcase, throw some clothes in there, and we're ready to go. On top of that, I had extra coats and rain gear and camping gear in the car at all times, so I didn't have to pack and unpack. All we had to do was grab some food, some clothes, and go. Again, this bath toiletry set was separate to the stuff we used every day. We didn't grab our toothbrush off the shelf. We had our own toothbrushes just for travel. Same with the phone charger, things like that. So when it really boils down to the 3-part system, it's first of all, you have to have the right tool for the job. If you don't have the tools for the job, you're gonna be running around, it's gonna be disorganized. You also have to have a home for everything. If something is homeless, it's gonna end up on the floor, in a pile, in a catch-all drawer, corner, whatever. So everything needs a home. And on top of that, the third part is this is always evolving. So as you find new ways to be more efficient, add them into the system. The system's working great in the back of the side-by-side, but it means I have to load it up every time I want to do this and drive out here. It means it's taking room up in the shop. So what I want to do is actually build a little tiny shed for the sawmill, which holds all the sawmill tools and equipment, sawmill blades, cant hooks, everything. So I know when I come out to the sawmill, I open the door, everything I need is in here. It'll probably even have a little shelf so I can sharpen the chainsaw out here. And that just reiterates the point. I'll have all the tools, everything will have a home, that's where they belong. And that's how you stay organized. Getting organized takes time. I had to make this thing foolproof because I'm the fool that can't stay organized. Hope you found this useful. We'll see you in the next video. Okay, now I just have to make this place a mess, which sucks.